بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
إنك لا تنادي فهبوا يا بني قومي أسودا أعيدوا للدنا أمجاد عصر وفلوا بالحديد لنا القيودا.
Hello everyone, this is Colin once again. I'm making this video because I've noticed that lately there have been a lot of haters who have, and not just haters, but people in general who have been asking me questions about certain key hadiths and certain verses in the Quran regarding women in Islam. There's a lot of misconceptions about this topic, and so I'm hoping to make this video to clarify some of the misconceptions that are being presented or abused and essentially brought up over and over again by people who hate Islam. This is not a direct refutation against anyone in particular, because so many people have been asking about this, so many people have been abusing these texts, that I figured that this could just be a neutral video, just clearing up some of the misconceptions. I'm going to try and go as fast as possible because we have a lot of ground to cover. First, I'd like to read from Surah 4, verse 34, which is a famous verse from the Quran that's taken completely out of context usually, and is usually voided of any meaningful scholarly tafsir or commentary or anything of that nature. For those of you who do not have a copy or access to the Tafsir of Muhammad Assad, which I will be reading here in this video, please see the description section for the Tafsir of Ibn Kathir, which also furthers my point. I also have in the description section the verses as well to read along. The verse says, "And as for those women whose ill will you have reason to fear, admonish them first, then leave them alone in bed, then beat them. And if thereupon they pay you heed, do not seek to harm them. Behold, God is indeed most high and great." The Tafsir of Muhammad Assad says the following: "It is evident from authentic traditions that the Prophet himself intensely detested the idea of beating one's wife, and said on more than one occasion, quote, 'Could any of you beat his wife as he would beat a slave, and then lie with her in the evening?' End quote." That is ranked Sahih in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. According to another tradition, he forbade the beating of any woman with the words, "Never beat God's handmaidens." That's ranked Sahih in Sunan Abu Dawud, Sunan al-Nasi, Sunan Ibn Majah, and the Musnad of Ahmed ibn Hanbal, Ibn Hibban, and Hakim as well, on the authority of Ayaz ibn Abdullah ibn Hibban, on the authority of Abd Allah ibn Abbas, and Mahiki, on the authority of Khulthum. When the above Quran verse authorizing the beating of a refractory wife was revealed, the Prophet is reported to have said, quote, "I wanted one thing, but God had willed another thing, and what God has willed must be best." And this is from the Tafsir Manar, volume 5, point number 74. With all of this, he stipulated in his sermon on the occasion of the farewell pilgrimage shortly before his death that beating should be resorted to only if the wife has become guilty in an obvious manner of immoral conduct, quote-unquote, and that should be done in such a way as not to cause pain. Authentic traditions to this effect are found in Sahih Muslim, Sunan, Tirmidhi, Abu Dawud, Nasi, and Ibn Majah, all ranked Sahih. In other words, authentic. On the basis of these traditions, all the authorities stress that the beating, if resorted to at all, should be more or less symbolic, quote, with a toothbrush or some such thing, as the Tafsir of Tabari, who was quoting the scholars of all authentic scholars of the earliest times, those who knew the companions and things of this nature. Or even with a folded handkerchief, as the Tafsir of Imam Ibn Razi says. And some of the greatest Muslim scholars, like Imam al-Shafi, are of the opinion that it is just barely permissible and should proverbially be avoided, and they justify this opinion by the Prophet's personal feelings with regards to this problem. So that is the Tafsir of Muhammad Assad with regards to this verse. If you look at any Sharia fiqh manual, it is very clear that the, quote, disciplinary act is symbolic and that it should not cause physical harm whatsoever. No bruising, beating, broken bones, nothing like that at all, no pain whatsoever. Now we're going to turn to some of the most abused hadiths, and I know I'm going rather fast, so forgive me for that, but we do have to go through this as quickly as possible. Of the refutations I will be reading, I have to give credit to AnsweringChristianity.com. I'll post the link in the description section. They're the ones that provided the refutations to these numerous hadiths, which I see many people quoting. One person said to me, and many haters use this, they say, you know, if Muhammad was against beating, then why did he allow this one woman to be beaten, as seen in Sahih Bukhari, volume 7, book 72, number 715, narrated by Ikrimah, which essentially the story, if I could sum it up, goes like this. This woman comes to the Prophet complaining that her husband beat her, and that her skin, according to Aisha, she exclaims, "I've never seen women suffering as much as the believing women. Look, her skin is greener than her clothes." When this woman's husband, Abdurrahman, comes to the Prophet, he says that she was claiming that he is impotent. In other words, that the wife was making the claim that he could not perform sexually. Yet the husband brought his children from a previous marriage with him, and the Prophet simply says to her, you claim that he was impotent, yet by Allah, these boys resemble him as a crow resembles a crow, meaning that he could perform sexually and that he could produce children. Therefore, she was making stories up just to get back with her former husband. Now, the author of this article provides enough commentary, but I just want to point something out which is obvious. The story ends with the Prophet making the point, or at least the hadith ends. We don't know word for word what happened after this, but the Prophet ends, the hadith ends with him just saying, proving the point that she was not telling the truth about her husband's, her husband's sexual potency, if you will. Haters flash this on their screen and say, look, the Prophet agreed with beating because he didn't condemn the guy for beating his wife. The fact is, the Prophet didn't say anything. The hadith does not say anything about that subject. You cannot use this hadith and say the Prophet allowed or encouraged the beating when the hadith does not say anything like that at all. You cannot produce proof from silence. Okay? You cannot produce legitimate proof by saying he didn't say anything, therefore he must have agreed with it. You have no evidence for that. Similarly, no Muslim can use this hadith and say that the Prophet forbade beating because the Prophet didn't say anything about it. But we do know, and this is where the author of this article does a great job of showing, that there are numerous hadiths where the Prophet said, do not beat your wife. So we know that this man was going above and beyond and was going against the teachings of Islam. He had gone to extremes. Another hadith that is used a lot by people is one that's found in Sahih Bukhari, volume 7, book 62, number 30, narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. Allah's apostle said, the evil omen is in the woman, the house, and the horse. And they say, oh look, look how Islam views women. Women are an evil omen. Well, if they did the research, they would find that in the 6th volume of Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal's Musnad presents the reality of this. And I'm quoting Answering Christianity's article now. That according to Abu Hassan reports that two people came to Aisha and said to her that Abu Hurairah narrates the Prophet used to say that bad luck is to be found only in women, horses, and houses. At this, Aisha replied, by the God who revealed the Quran to the Prophet never said this. What he did say was that the people of ignorance hold this opinion. Okay, so he was saying this is what the pagans used to believe. This is not his exact quote. Another hadith is they say, well, if the Prophet was against beating women, why did he beat Aisha? And they quote this hadith from Sahih Muslim, book 4, number 2127, where apparently he struck the chest of Aisha. Now, I encourage you all to read the article because there's so much good information refuting this allegation that I don't have enough time to cover it. But I will say this first off. Imam Nawawi, one of the greatest scholars of hadith, he said that the word lahada, according to all Arabic dictionaries, lexicons, etc., does not mean to strike, to beat. It means to push, to shove. And we know that this, on several other occasions, this proved that the Prophet did this to a number of people. He would struck his hand on people's chests, and it implied a showing of content, or it was a metaphorical sense, or it had a theological backing to it. Again, I cannot go into extreme detail about this because there's so much information, but again, I have the link in the description section for all of you to read up. I encourage you to check it up. It's the first hadith he deals with. And the whole article is excellent because he systematically goes through and refutes pretty much every hadith that is used to try and show that Islam is against women. So pretty much every misconception, every accusation you have heard regarding the hadiths and things like this about apparently women are abused in Islam, or women are, second to cattle in Islam, and all this other horse crap, you come to find out that it's based on their lies and deceptions and not based on truth, as the scholars of Islam and Muslims in general view these things based on the evidence, on the true evidence, on the true scholarship. So thank you everyone for watching. I hope this was enlightening. Peace.